Dominic, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have an amazing conversation. We're going to review what we talked about last Monday's episode. We have a really fun viewer mailbag, and of course, some wins of the week. Dom, how's your week been?
My week has been amazing as always. I hope that your guys' week has been just as great as mine. Chris, your week's been good? Yes? I hope yes.
Yeah, of course, it's been great. I have nothing to
Was
complain
it
about.
great? Now listen, we made it through. We're alive and well. What more can we ask for? So we had a great podcast on Monday, as Chris was saying. So we're going to be recapping a lot of what happened on Monday and really kind of just setting ourselves up for a great 2026, right? I'm very excited about this viewer mailbag as well. I read through it today, Chris. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think it's going to hit home for a lot of people, actually. But yeah, let's get right into it. Where should we start on this Friday episode, Chris?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start with what we talked about last Monday. I think the biggest thing that I really wanted to get across to people is that the holiday season doesn't need to be this time where we're like, oh my God, I know it's going to be bad. And I know my finances in January, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to be confused about to how it happened. But we can actually choose to view the holiday season as a training ground, as a time that we can set our intentions when we have the highest of issues, so that when it's actual game time, it's a little bit easier. It's kind of like in jujitsu, right? When we're training and you're getting ready for competition, sometimes what you'll do is you'll do these grind matches, or you'll roll with somebody who is fresh and you'll fight them for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, that person gets off you and there's a new fresh person ready to fight you right there. And the moment that you're done fighting them, a new person, you do that for like 15, 20 minutes of just you fighting a new fresh person over and over and over again in order to simulate, hey, when we're in a tournament and you're match after match after match, you can do this. You can fight for 20 minutes and still be fighting at your last 15 to 20. You can do it for 5 minutes in a real fight. So if we train that way when we're actually in the tournaments and we only have one 5 minute fight and then we have a 30, 45 minute break in between, maybe even an hour, that gives you time, your body to reset, to do all these things. It's the same thing here. We can train in the most difficult of times. So then when we're out of the holiday season and it's easier, it makes that situation, again, easier to be able to manipulate and a bit easier to control.
And that's kind of the idea, right? The harder you train, the easier it is once you're in the field. And that's what we want, right? Because in training, it's a controlled environment. We can really dial in where we need to improve and where we're kind of lacking. And it's so much better to train, you know, in private, right? With, with your spouse, with your family members, right? Rather than when you get out in the real world and you're like, wow, I'm making a bunch of poor financial decisions. I'm making a lot of negative moves that are really impacting me. So yeah, don't want to be doing that. Don't want to be making negative moves, right? Got to think of it as a game. And what is the best strategy moving forward? One of the things we talked about last episode was taking ownership, right, Chris? A lot of times, being with the end of the year, the holiday season, we're placing blame. Oh man, I got to go over to my parents. They're stressing me out. The holidays are stressing me out. The bills are everything is stressing me out. It's all the holidays' fault, right? But one of the things we talked about is, well, actually, we got to take some extreme ownership and make sure that, well, did we plan for the holiday? Did we know that December was coming, right? Are we new? You might be, from Mars, it's your first time here. So maybe you didn't realize that, like, hey, Christmas is coming in December. It is, right? It's coming in December. And, that's a crazy thing, right? You spend a lot of money in December. Did we know December was coming? Do we know that we spend a lot of money on gifts in December? I would think so, right? I would think so. I would hope so. Right? I would hope so. Right? So you have to take accountability for your actions. And one of the things about taking accountability is, well, planning. One of the things that my family has started doing this year and the year before was, well, hey, we need to set aside X amount of dollars and then some, to be honest, for Christmas, right? Whether that's for gifts, whether that's for the new ornaments, whether that's for the home goods sale that they always run 50% off, right? Gets me every time. They know what they're doing. Their marketing team, they know what they're doing. But it's so important, right? To plan for these things. Because like we say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Then you end up in that target line with about $500 worth of gifts and a credit card limit that, well, hey, that's not going to work. So you have to use two credit cards. It's a mess. You don't want that to happen.
One thing that I found, and this is from talking with a lot of people and just kind of my own anecdotes of life, is that I think sometimes we feel bad for not thinking about the person that we're getting something for. And since we feel bad about that, we try to overcome that sadness by spending more money on them. Like, you're let's say like you're about to leave. You went on a vacation and you're leaving. You're about to walk out and you're at the airport and you're like, "Oh my God, I forgot to get something for my sister or my mom or my dad." And now the first thing you're going to see is like, I don't know, what's the most expensive thing inside this airport little gift shop? I'll get the most expensive thing because I forgot about this person or because I didn't really think about them. So I think if we were able to put more intention the year through as to what we're going to get that person, we're going to defeat that feeling inside of I have to now overcompensate with the amount of money that I spend to make up for the lack of intention that I put into these things. I think so much of it comes down to intention. I know, Dom, you said that what you're doing this year with what you've been doing with your family is kind of budgeting and talking about what you guys are going to spend. What my wife and I have been doing for the past few years is, we travel a lot. So every time that we travel, we get something for each member of who we get things for in different countries and different places. Like, oh man, this person will love this. And then we take all those things and we give it to them during Christmas. So this year for Christmas, for majority of our family, we have stuff from Africa and Dubai that we're going to be giving to people from our last vacations there. Last year, we gave people stuff from Japan and from Mexico. And, we held on to it because we usually travel at the beginning of the year. We held on to it for the entire year. And it was just sitting in a box in one of our closets. And now we had to wrap all of them and give them to the family. So that's the way that we do it. And that we were kind of purchasing through the entire year what we're going to be getting people. And then when it comes to the holiday season, well, really, the only people we have to shop for is for my wife and I, or just for each other. We don't have to get anything else for anybody else because we've already done that in the past because we already knew who we were going to be getting stuff for. Because I think if you're honest with yourself, you know who you're going to buy gifts for probably even 12 months in advance. It's the same people you got stuff for last year.
And, the key thing about the podcast, right? What we always try to encourage you to do is to keep improving, always be improving, right? Like I was saying earlier, I've started, setting more money aside for Christmas and really doing that. But after going through the season this year, I know that, well, now I can kind of go up a level. I can go up, I can add a little bit of steroids to it, right? Let's beef it up a little bit. So for me, it's not just, well, let's set aside how much money. Let's figure out, like Chris was saying, let's figure out which presents for which people. So that way, when we get to December, it's like, oh, did you do any of your Christmas shopping? It's like, yeah, yeah, been done for like a month, so we're fine. But also for me, this is just like the psycho in me. But it's like, all right, well, what food are we gonna have on Christmas Day? What cake are we gonna make for the birthday, right? What movies are we gonna watch each day, right? That's where my mind goes, right? I just want to have it all planned out. I want to have all the bills paid. I want to have all the presents, you know, purchased, right? So that when that holiday time comes, when I'm at my peak, quote unquote, when I'm at my peak stress level, it's all planned out. It's already written. And I don't have to worry and I don't have to stress myself out more than quote unquote the holidays already add stress, right? So it's planning for the stress and beefing it up, right? If you knew someone was going to come rob your house on the 16th, would you wait till the 15th to prepare? God, no. I'd get buy a bunch of guns. I'd buy a new security system. I'd probably put claymores by the door. I'd prepare, right? Because I know this is coming, right? The same thing with Christmas, minus the claymores, right? You know it's coming, right? It's better not to avoid it. But now that we're in that new year, we're coming up on a new season, a new fresh, and I use that very loosely, right? A new fresh year, a new fresh season, right? Because in actuality, a fresh season can be any day. I know, Chris, you feel the same. I don't love the idea of January 1st, January 1st, 'cause that's when I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna stop smoking and drinking and being a degenerate. It's like, you can do it today. I think you just want to be a degenerate, honestly. Um, but yes, yes. Were there any other kind of points, things that stuck out from last Monday's episode that you wanted to really hammer home? I know there were some really great action steps in there. I know we had a great closeout, but what else did you want to kind of impress upon people that man, you really need to hammer this home and get this for the new year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing my brain's going to is I recently, at the end of the year, reread the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's probably one of the best books that you could buy yourself. It gives so much of so much science, so much brain chemistry, so much of what's going on and why we keep falling into the same mistakes. And I think the biggest thing, there's a lot of big things, but one of the things that is really important I want to impress upon us, especially in this moment, it's we don't rise the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our systems. And if your system is, I'll figure it out when I get there, or it's not going to be a problem where it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You are planning to fail. You need to systematize things. We just have to. We all will fall back to whatever is easiest. What is easiest is doing nothing and ignoring it until we have a bigger problem down the road that we have to deal with. And now we're putting all of our power, energy, time into getting out of debt when we knew we didn't even have to get into it in the first place. Set up your systems well ahead of time. And that means your budgeting system, your gifting system, all of these things. You set them up one time. It makes it so much easier than having to redo it every single time.
Absolutely. Yeah, automation is so key. It's foolish not to be automating things in your life, right? I know for me, every morning before I wake up, these lights I have on in the room, they turn on. It's one less thing I have to do, right? It's one of the simple automations, right? Every Wednesday, a certain amount of my checking account, it goes into another investment account, right? It's simple. I don't have to think about it, right? And it's just little automations that can really make a world of a difference, but you won't know till you actually do it.
So I say with that, we get into our viewer mailbag.
I'm excited. Yeah, we got a juicy one today, so I'm excited. This is the part of the podcast where someone from the community, they write in, they ask for advice both financially and oftentimes, spiritually and, in any advice in any way advice can be given, they're kind of looking for it. So,
We are your spiritual leaders of Phi.
yeah, I forgot. God bless you.
Phi bless you.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully that's not sacrilegious, but it's we're just doing a bit. It's fine. Don't cancel us. Anyway, on today's episode of the Fi Friday feedback, should I sell my home after just 2 years?
Hmm.
What's going on here? All righty. So, howdy, Fi guys. That is us. We are the Fi guys. God bless you.
And just to be sure everyone knows, no one has ever written howdy.
No, nobody has ever written howdy. I'm waiting for it. It's always dearest Fi guys. It's never howdy. Why never howdy, guys? What are we doing? Howdy, Fi guys. I'm writing because I feel stuck and I need a reality check. We're here for that. A couple of years ago, I bought my first home. At the time, it felt like one of the proudest moments of my life. But now, after just 2.5 years, I'm starting to wonder, was this a massive mistake?
Hmm.
Interesting. I didn't realize how much the rising costs, maintenance, the constant stress that would be weighing on me. It feels like the house has become another job. Interesting. I wonder if they bought like one of those like historic homes where it's like, it kind of needs to be gutted, but like, you still buy it because it's a historic home. Or you think
We don't.
that's just like a picture for everyone?
I feel like this is the season that we're in, right? I don't know how old this person is, but for like most millennials in Gen Y, a starter home, unfortunately, is an old home. Like you're not like your starter home nowadays is a 2,800 square foot, 2 bedroom, like, or not 2 bedroom, 8 bedroom, 2 bath, like type place. So now if people want to get home, they have to buy an old ass home, and they don't really account for all of the other things because home ownership or home ownership fatigue is a real thing. And especially most first time buyers, they underestimate the emotional and the financial load that comes with buying a place. So to our listener, like, you're not alone at all. That's just the way that it feels because that is the way that the system is set up. It's not
It's
like it
tough.
was back in the 50s, right? Where
No,
dad could go
no.
to work at his factory job and come home and afford a house for all the kids and a car.
Yep. Yep. and the wife could stay home and, bacon was cooked every morning. Between my mortgage, which is about $2,600 a month, which recently went up due to taxes, that sucks. Utilities, yard work, and the constant threat of aging appliances breaking down. Constant threat. My God. That is kind of scary. Don't want those appliances going out. My total monthly living expenses is around 3,100, and honestly, it's kind of draining me. Not kinda. Hmm, not good. Recently,
Eh,
a new
what
opportunity
I would
came.
do for 3,100 like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny. Some people's nightmare is some people's paradise, and vice versa. It's funny how that works. One man's trash is another man's treasure. I guess that's saying, not saying your house is trash, but um, yeah. I'm gonna get back to my voice cracking letter. Recently, a new opportunity came up. My partner's job will cover all of the rent and utilities, but only if we lease an apartment together through a third party landlord. Interesting. If we did that, well, I'd save and invest roughly $3,000 a month. That would be awesome
Cool.
while eliminating the stress of home maintenance altogether. All right, all right, all right. I'm seeing a picture here. If I sell my house this spring or the summer, I'd break even, or after realtor fees and everything else, maybe even make a small amount. But since we're planning to move overseas in the next 2 to 3 years, I'd
What?
have to sell eventually. Interesting. Interesting.
I wonder if when they purchased the home, they knew they were going to be moving in 2 to 3 years from now, anyways, because that means they bought the house knowing they were going to move in 5 years, or maybe something that just came up out of nowhere.
I don't know. Maybe the idea was to like they bought the home, like, all right, in 5 years, we'll sell it and parlay the proceeds into a new home in our new, I don't know, Japanese duplex. I don't know. I don't know where they're going. I don't know. I don't know why you'd go anywhere else other than Japan, to be honest. But that's me. Um, I'd eventually have to sell anyway. Renting it out doesn't make sense either because similar rents in my area go for about 1,800 to 2,000, way less than my mortgage. I'd be losing money every month while dealing with the repairs as a landlord. So you'd still have the stress and you'd still be losing money. So yeah, the renting it out doesn't make too much sense. Gotcha. So here is my question. Am I making a smart financial move by selling now, or am I just burned out and letting the homeowner fatigue get the best of me? I'd really appreciate your perspective, both the numbers side and the emotional side, because right now I honestly can't tell which voice in my head is the rational one. From house stress high, should I say goodbye? Wowzers, trousers, how about that? More details, guys. I want to know where you're moving to. We need the juicy details. I live for the juicy details. An
The
interesting
first
one.
thing, the first thing I'm thinking of with this is I've met so many people who's like their whole goal in life is to just buy a house. Like once you buy a house, we finally made it. We can finally start life.
Yeah.
Actually, I knew a friend who knows a friend who's a doctor who said like I can't get married until I own my home. So her and her fiance bought a house together before they got married so that they could get married. And we were all sitting there like, I don't understand what your thought process is. But again, if you have a thought process saying like, I must do this, then it
Mhm.
all makes sense. And so many people, we all say like home ownership, like we're going to do home ownership. That's the most important thing. And too many people don't realize that with home ownership comes a lot of responsibilities and a lot of potential problems. One thing I've always liked is like my rent is the highest amount I'm going to pay a month, or your mortgage is the lowest amount you are going to pay in a month. Because when you have rent and something breaks, water heater goes out, roof starts to leak, I just call the landlord and they fix it because it's already included in my rent. With the mortgage, that's the lowest amount you're going to pay because if anything happens, it gets added on top of that. You're dealing with those things too. And especially nowadays where starter homes are homes built back in the 80s and the 70s, that's 50 years old. They're coming with issues.
Yeah, and no matter how much HGTV you watch, Fix or Flop you watch, it's still going to be very expensive. Don't put in a water heater yourself. Probably not a good idea. You know, don't do the electrical work. I had a breaker go out. I bought a new miter saw for Christmas, and I first pull, I cut the wood. Oh, this is the best day of my life. Second pull, I flipped the breaker, and it turns out that breaker, it needs to be upgraded. And you know me, I'm on ChatGPT, and the first thing ChatGPT says, "Don't do it. Hire an electrician. You will kill yourself. Do not mess with the wires." Like, all right, no. Yeah. So no matter how much HGTV I watch, I mean TikToks I watch on how to change something, I can do a lot, but can't do everything. It is very expensive owning a home, though. It is very expensive. I think this guy is really excited for moving overseas. Chances are, I would assume, I don't know, this is me assuming, but I would assume it's cheaper to buy a house overseas than it is here. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? You've lived overseas. Obviously, there's a lot of places that are very expensive overseas, but you can also find a lot of great deals.
Yeah, it depends where you're going to move. I mean, if they're moving to like parts of Europe or something like that, it could be just as expensive as it is in parts of America too. So there's different parts.
There's levels.
That makes it rough because like to our listener right now, your all-in cost for owning your mortgage is what, 3,100, I think they said. And then rent in the area is 18 to 2,000. So moving in with your partner brings a much lower cost of rent. And that spread is massive, especially if you imagine the financial pressure that's extremely, extremely real right now. The person has to ask themselves, like, is it worth it to get rid of the house to get rid of the headache? Like, don't look at this as like a financial decision. Look at this as what's going to make my life better. I think we also need to discuss that there are some people that say, like, I'm going to buy the house no matter what, where in general, renting is usually the better of financial decisions, especially if your timeline is very short. So if you're planning on keeping a house for, general rule of thumb is less than 7 to 10 years, it's usually better just to rent and pocket that extra money. The reason homes are so great as savings vehicles is because it's for savings vehicles. What makes much more sense typically is to rent and then invest the difference into a broad market S&P 500 or into some sort of investment. But you can't live in your investment portfolio. You can't live in your Bitcoin. You can't live in the S&P 500. You can live in a house. And if you don't pay for said house, the bank comes and takes it from you. So it is a forced savings vehicle. And that's what most people need. They need to be forced to save money in an asset. And unfortunately, one of the few things in America that Americans understand or that all people understand is homeownership. It's easy. It's intuitive. We get it. And thankfully, land is not becoming more abundant. It's becoming much less abundant. Therefore, if you own land, if you own the property, it should continue to grow because it is a limited supply in a world where we are very quickly debasing everything else.
Honestly. Yeah. I mean, I know for a lot of people, their dream is to, move to Montana and get away from it all and buy a bunch of land. And I'm telling you, it sucks when you have to drive 45 minutes to go to Lowe's. I'll be honest. It's not that fun. Like, I got a Lowe's like 10 minutes from me, and I'm like, ah, kind of far. I don't know if I want to go that far. So yeah, it sounds like he's got a lot of opportunities, but a lot of choices that need to be made. And the whole partner situation seems very promising. But what do you think? What do you think, Chris?
I don't know what the relationship is, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, it certainly sounds like you have an opportunity to maybe get out of a house that you might. This sounds like you do regret. Like you said, it might be the biggest mistake you ever made. Like you don't say that about something that you don't regret a little bit.
Yeah.
Every dollar that's going to the house is a dollar that you can invest. You can't save. You can't use to build the future that you want. So if the home is restricting your growth and restricting your next step in your life, you probably want to get rid of it because everything in our life, or most things, if not majority of them, should be fueling the life that we want. And if it isn't, if it's actively retracting, that's a signal to get rid of it. There's an old saying that I've always liked. It's alligators and kittens. So some people, we love kittens. They're all cute and no one likes alligators. So sometimes in life, you'll sit there and you have all these alligators in a room. And those are all the problems that you have. And people are like, man, there's so many alligators in here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to keep on adding more kittens, more cute things that I love inside this room with all these alligators. But until I get rid of the alligators, it doesn't matter how many kittens I add because the alligators are just going to consume every one of the kittens. So if you have these things that are draining your life, these alligators, we need to focus on getting rid of them. You just can't keep on bringing in more kittens, thinking that eventually like that's going to get rid of the alligator. You need to deal with the alligator. And right now it sounds like that alligator is this mortgage. It's stressful. You're putting all this money into it. You don't know why you did it. You're going to be moving in 5 years or in 3 years anyways. It sounds like right now you have an opportunity to be able to, yeah, maybe downsize by moving into an apartment, maybe renting from somebody else, which in so many people's minds is throwing money away, which it isn't, because you're paying for a service the same way that when I go to a restaurant and they bring me my food, I don't go, oh, I just threw my money away. I could have done this at home. You're getting something for an exchange of value. And that change that you're getting is going to give you, what'd you say, $3,000 a month to be able to invest, to be able to prep for your next move to this next place. Yeah, it might suck that you broke even. And look how great it is that you at least broke even, because there are a lot of people that could end up being negative.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dom?
I mean, and he's gonna be if you go to an apartment, he said he's gonna be making like you said, 3,000 extra a month. I mean, that's not a small chunk of cheddar cheese. Over 3 years, that's huge. I mean, that's a great sum of money. You know, whether that's for your retirement, a down payment on another house, maybe you're done with the houses altogether. Maybe you're just gonna go when you travel overseas, you're gonna be in an apartment. But yeah, I think that's about as much advice as you can give. At the end of the day, you can't make a decision for them, right? You can only give them the tools, the insight, and kind of act as a sounding board for them. So I
Yeah.
hope that helps
I,
make
I,
the decision.
I do think there is something that I see a lot is that people get
Mhm.
attached, their identity becomes rolled up in homeownership. I think that's the hardest thing to break for some people. It's like, I am a homeowner and now I've made it into this elite class of people that are homeowners. And to think about no longer being a homeowner and going back to just a poor peasant renter makes people like, oh, I can't do it. I have to stay here. And then when you compound that with the emotional strain and the financial strain, it makes people super narrow focused. So like the one thing that I can control is that I'm a homeowner, or at least I'm better than some people. Better, like God, please no, like those are way hard in quotation marks. Like you aren't better than anybody just because you own a home. But those stress, they impact our decision making. They impact our relationship, they impact our health, our work performance, everything. So when you have this feeling of being burnt out, of being, I don't know if I got this home, that is a signal from like a more intelligent version of yourself that's saying like, we are unaligned here and we need to do something to get around it. Because selling the house is not running away from your problems. It's not running away from your identity. It's choosing more alignment from who you actually want to be. Your values and your lifestyle have shifted. And that happens in life. And just because your values and your decisions, and your lifestyle has shifted, that doesn't mean that you're a failure. Good financial decisions happen when you live your goals and you let your money work the same direction as you're going. And right now, it seems like the house is pulling you away from those things. So if selling gives you the time, the peace, and the flexibility, and more importantly, the savings to be able to move overseas in a few years, then it's not a loss. It's actually a really big win disguised as just a hard decision. And life is made up of a series of hard decisions that you get to look back on and say, oh, wow, I made the right choices. I made the hard decisions so I could live an easier life rather than making the easier decisions every time, which set me up for a very hard life. You get to choose. How do you want to suffer?
How do you want to suffer? Well, that's going to do it for our viewer mailbag. I hope that helps, and I hope that makes your decision a lot easier. With that being said, we're going to be moving on to our win of the week. Chris, what do you have for your win of the week?
So my win of the week is my wife and I, we just got back from Nashville or last week we went to Nashville. So we did this before our Monday episode, but it was really fun. Yeah. One of my wife's best friends and bridesmaids, she turned 30 years old. So she wanted to do a thing in Nashville. We got to go to the Old Opry and watch one of the, Western music things. That was pretty fun. Got to go to a few really nice restaurants. Got to walk down downtown Nashville and see the debauchery that is downtown Nashville. One thing that I noticed is all the cowgirls and everything, they all look so cute. And we're in Nashville in December and it's like 30, 40 degrees out. And when we lived in Arizona, it was like you try to dress up nicely to get from AC unit to AC unit. And now all these girls, like they're all like wearing skirts and their boots and no jackets. And it's like their intention was like, I need to get from bar to bar as quickly as possible before I die on these streets.
That's so funny. That's pretty funny, actually. Well, that's cool. Sounds like an interesting, fun trip. My win of the week is that I finished my second brain in Notion, and I've started using it. You kind of have to get to a point where it's like, all right, I'm gonna stop here, and I'm gonna start using it, and I'm gonna kind of start. I'm gonna start using it, but I'll still kind of be adding and upgrading to a few things. Like one of the things that I thought of yesterday, which was I got a lovely holiday card from my godmother, and I was like, I love these cards, but I don't know where to save them. So one of the ideas that I had for adding into my, it'll probably be in my archives or maybe in my resources, but it's just taking a picture of it and having like, oh, my godmother, she has her own tab, and every time she sends me a card, I take a picture of it so I can keep it forever. That's just, I don't know, that's just how I am. I feel bad throwing it away, and I always love to appreciate it. But that is for me, and that's going to be my win of the week, and that's going to be this week's episode. But we hope you guys had an amazing, amazing year. We hope you guys have an amazing holiday season still. And we will see you guys back here on Monday as always. I'm Dom. He's Chris. Any final thoughts, Chris?
No, we'll see you then. Next week, we have a very exciting one talking about all about setting New Year's goals and making sure that we have a good checklist set up for 2026 to set you guys up for the best year ever.
Yeah.
So
With that being
please
said,
share the podcast with a friend, bring someone along for this journey of financial dependence. We will see you in 2026. Thank you so much for being here with us. Later.
peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.